Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning. How are we all doing? How are we all doing? Did we all have a fabulous weekend? So I'm just sorting out my colours. Need my cold grey to start off with. Right, yes, how are we doing? We are back to work on our Dalmatian Doggo, and we've just got this bit here to do. We might get it done today, we might not. We shall see. If you hear Rosie bark a lot in the background, it is because she is barking at our cat Cookie. Because this morning, Cookie and Badger, the terrible twinnies, have their 6-monthly checkup at the vets, and their appointment is 9:40. And so Nick said to me, he says, right, before you go on the stream, could you help me catch the cats and get them into their cat baskets? And when you're trying to capture Cookie and Badger, they know. They know they don't like me because I'm always the one that puts flea treatment on the back of their neck. So if they see me coming, they always sort of run a mile. So I was like, right, we're going to have to be stealthy about this. And so we managed to get Badger really quickly because he's the more sort of docile idiot out of the two. He would just sort of meow and protest and let you pick him up and put him in a cage, and then he'll cry about it and so on and so forth. But Cookie is the Houdini out of them. So before we went to put the cats in the baskets, I went to close all the little doors where Cookie normally goes to hide. So he normally goes to hide in the space under the stairs where we keep all the towels and the bedding and things like that. He will, if that door's open, he will slip in and he'll slither to the back, and it's impossible to get him because the cupboard is so deep you cannot actually reach all the way to the back, and it's impossible to squeeze in there because it's such a small space, and you normally just have to wait for him to come out. And so I closed that door off and thought, right, okay, the only other place he can go is under Becca's bed. And we knew he was curled up asleep on Becca's bed, and we thought, well, that would be no problem, we'll be able to get him out from under the bed, that's not an issue. So I got the baskets out, and Badger was downstairs in the lounge, and Jared said, well, he's right here, should we just grab him? So we grabbed him, put him in his cat basket, but of course he's meowing like you're asking him to donate a kidney, right? It's like, oh, woe is me, meow, 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 and he's got this really sort of high-pitched meow when he thinks he's distressed, and Badger pretty much gets distressed at anything. But of course, his meowing alerted Cookie, and we'd got Badger locked up in his thing, and Nick was like, oh, well done for being proactive, because he was out doing the bins, and when he came back in, we'd already got one cat in the basket, and he was like, oh, well done for being proactive. And I was like, yeah, no problem, we've just got to get Cookie now. And we went upstairs, and the cupboard under the stairs was open, and Cookie was no longer on Becca's bed. So yeah, so we did what we could. We used food to try and tempt him out. No joy. I used a long tube, cardboard tube that we got from Christmas wrapping to see if I could sort of put it in and sort of encourage him to sort of come out from behind all the towels and everything. And he was having none of it. He was not budging. He was like, no, I can hear my brother downstairs crying his eyes out. There is no way I'm coming out because the same fate will await me. And Rosie, our dog, who picks up on any kind of animal distress, is now so hyped and excited she wants to get to the cats. and find out what all the fuss is about. And so, yeah, so if you hear barking, that was my long story as to if you hear barking, it is because Rosie is getting excited at the cats being distressed. So I think Nick has gone with Badger, and we'll just have to capture Cookie another time. But he does this all the time. We've had, how old are they now? They're 9 years old. We've had 9 years of this. Every time we have to do a vet's appointment, which is their yearly boosters. Their yearly boosters. Anytime they get sick, and there's 6 monthly checkups, because they get 6 monthly checkups because they have heart conditions. And it's like every time we go through this. The worst time was when we booked them both in to be neutered on the same day. Because they're both boys. We didn't need 2 entire boys roaming the house. And, you know, spay and neuter your pets. That's the responsible thing to do, right? And we'd booked them both in to be neutered on the same day. And the same thing happened. We captured Badger first, no problem. And then Cookie went and hid in the cupboard under the stairs. And yeah, so we tried everything. We tried tuna, we tried everything, and we ended up just taking Badger in. And they said, look, they're not going down into theatre for another hour or so. If you're able to capture him, bring him in. And luckily we managed to do that and got them in on the same day. But every time we have a checkup, every time we take precautions, try and stop Cookie going and hiding, and sometimes, somehow, he always manages to hide and get away from us. He has special skills, that cat. He's like the Liam Neeson of cat. He has a special set of skills. Instead of saying, I will find you and I will kill you, he's like, I will hide and you will not kill me. I think that's what he thinks we're going to do to him. And they most certainly do not like me trying to capture them, because obviously, like I said, I do the flea treatments, I do the worming treatments, and so they're just like, don't trust you. You're tricky. You're a tricky human. Don't like you at all. I've never had a problem with cats my entire life. We've always had cats, even as a child. Never had a problem with cats. And even my other 2 cats, because we've got 4 cats, Misty and Magic, I give them their flea and wormer, but they still love me and give me affection and everything. But Badger and Cookie are like, not her. No, we don't like her. And so I have 2 cats in my house who I love and adore, but who will not love and adore me. And it's not fair. This affection only seems to go one way. And I've never had that with cats. It's weird. It's very weird. The only time they will let me be close to them is if I am opening a packet of cat food. And then they'll be like, okay, we'll get close, but we're watching you. It's like, you can see them looking at me like that. And if I try and sort of lift my hand to sort of stroke the top of their head, as soon as I lift my hand, they flinch and they run away. It's really As someone who is like, I'm such an animal lover, and I've never had any animal be afraid of me. And that really sort of, it's not fair. You know, I look after them, I feed them, I make sure they stay healthy, and I know they don't understand that what I'm doing is keeping them safe and keeping them alive and not riddled with disease or mites or parasites or fleas or anything like that. They don't understand, because obviously you can't tell them what you're doing. They don't understand what you're doing. And when I try and love them, they won't let me. Let me love you. It's kind of funny, really. Right, that was the dark sepia. So once again, just as a recap, I use, for the white, I use a base layer of cold grey 1. Then I go over it with the warm grey 1. If I need to add any deeper shadows, I'm using the warm grey 2 or the cold grey 2, depending on where it sits on the dog in relation to the reference picture up here. And then for these darker patches, I'm mainly using dark sepia first, and then I put black over the top of that. But sometimes, like in certain patches, there's been a little bit of ivory in the white, and in some of the darker patches there's been little bits of brown. And with those, I'm tending to use like the walnut brown or the burnt umber, just to sort of add those touches. But I'm going in with the black now, just to sort of go over where I've been. And I'm making sure that I am keeping an eye on the fur direction. But I'm always open to, I'm not thinking that as I'm doing this, those are the only colours that I'm going to use because that's what I've used elsewhere. If I get to a certain part of the picture and the colours change and the colours are different, then I will change and make the colours different. Don't think that if you've started on a picture and you've only been using certain colours for most of it, that is the only colour, that those are the only colours that you can use for the rest of it. There will always be an exception to the rule. So like under here I used a little bit of brown, this brown there, and there's a little bit of brown there. But I haven't used it anywhere else because it doesn't show up on the picture. So don't be afraid to look at all of your colours and to really sort of take notice in what you see in your reference picture. And I'm always turning the pencil to get the sharp edge. It doesn't matter to me too much about leaving some of the white tooth of the paper coming through here, because looking at the picture there are little bits of white fur that are sort of peeking through the black, as you'd expect on a dog of this colour, of these colours I should say. So I'm trying to let the surface of the paper work for me as well. in just sort of nailing some of these colours and the textures. Morning, Faisal. How are you? Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, thank you. Yeah. A little bit frustrated and annoyed with my cats this morning because they wouldn't get in their cat carriers for the vets, but, well, one of them did. So that's the warm, cold grey. Now I'm going with warm grey. I'm just going to sharpen this. This dark sepia. Right. I've got quite a nice neat line down here. I'm just going to take it down. Did you have a good weekend? I know you're back at work now, but how was your weekend? I had a good start to my weekend. Last week on Friday, I got to about 3:30 in the afternoon, and I suddenly remembered that I needed to take my books back to the library, otherwise I was going to get a fine. And so I drove to the library, and I parked in the car park around the back. And as I'm walking to the front, I can see it was good, and I have a day off since I finished with a client yesterday. Oh, excellent, excellent. And as I'm walking to the front of the library, I can see that there's somebody on the floor. And my first responder instincts sort of kick in immediately, right? Because clearly someone's injured, somebody's on the floor, I don't know what yet, and there's a little crowd of people gathering around this person on the floor. And there's a lot of mums with children because the library is right next door to the infant school. And it was kicking out time, obviously. So I go over to see if I can render assistance. And I was kind of like, okay, I'm sure someone else would have taken charge, right? I'm sure this is, I wasn't first on scene or anything like that. Someone would have taken charge. And I get there, and there's this little old lady lying on the floor, late 70s, early 80s, and she's holding her head like this, and there's blood sort of trickling. Sorry if it's TMI. Blood trickling through her hands, and I can see blood on her top and everything. And there's a few people sort of handing her handkerchiefs to sort of, press against this wound on her head, and everyone's just sort of standing there doing nothing. And I sort of said, has anybody called for an ambulance? Because clearly she's had a head injury, right? She's had a fall, she had a head injury, her head's cut open. I don't know how bad it is at this point. And they're all like, no, we didn't know what to do. I was like, right, okay. So I sort of stepped in and called for an ambulance, explained the situation, and they said, right, it's a category 2 call, so we will aim to be with you within, I think she said 18 minutes. She says, but it could be just a little bit longer than that because we are extremely busy. And I was like, okay, that's fine. Don't worry, I used to be a first responder, and so I'll look after her until the paramedics get here. So I'm talking to this lady, I'm finding out her name. She seems a bit dazed and confused, which is as to be expected. And we work out that she tripped and fell over a raised grating in the pathway. And it was only raised by about that much, but that much is enough, right? And she went down, she didn't put her hands out to stop her fall, and the witnesses said that they heard a thunk, and they thought that maybe one of their children had fallen over, and when they turned around the corner there was this little old lady on the floor. And I have a look at the wound, and she's got this wound over the top of her eye here. She's got a wound in the corner of her eye. Her eye is already bloodshot, it's starting to swell, it's starting to go a lovely blue purple colour. Her cheek is all grazed, she's got a little cut here, and her lips starting to swell as well. So I'm thinking, right, okay, tomorrow she's going to look like she's gone 10 rounds with Mike Tyson, right? And so I ask her if she's feeling sick. I ask her if she's feeling dizzy. She says no. I ask her if she's in any pain. And she's like, well, it's uncomfortable. I said, yeah, but, on a scale of 0 to 0, blah, 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 10 being the worst, because paramedics like numbers. And I knew I'd have to give all this information to the paramedics when they got there. And she couldn't give me a number. She just seemed, whether it was a reluctancy to give me a number or whether she just couldn't come up with a number because she couldn't decide, I don't know. Because like I say, she was dazed and confused. But she seemed to know which month we were in, what day it was. She couldn't remember her grandchildren's names. She couldn't remember the Prime Minister, but who can these days? We've had so many just recently. And there was something clearly not right. And so we sat there, and she sat on this cold pavement outside, and I'm thinking, there's this little old lady, she sat on this cold pavement, she might be here for like 20 minutes, depending on when the ambulance crew get here. And we're waiting, and we're waiting, and we're waiting, and the 20 minutes come and they go. And it's starting to get dark, it's starting to get cold, and I really don't want this little old lady sat out on the pavement. So I check to make sure she's got no other injuries. So her legs are fine, her arms are fine. Clearly, her neck is fine, her C-spine, everything like that. And with the help of the other people around me, I say, look, let's get her up. And there's a bench just on the other side of this wall. It was about a 15-meter walk. I said, but if we can get her to that bench, it at least gets her off the floor, and we can see if anyone in the nearby houses or anything could offer a blanket or something. And I'd already, taken off, or offered to take off my coat and drape it on her, and she was like, no, I'm fine. She says, I've got my coat on, I'm fine. And we sort of get her up and everything, but it's really starting to get really, really cold. And I'd called her husband, who was at home, to let him know where she was and what had happened, and that she was okay, that we'd called an ambulance, but if he wanted to get to us, this was where we were. And as I say, we get her to this bench. But this bench is, because we've had rain, the bench is cold and it's damp and it's not very comfortable. And I said, look, let's try and get inside the library. We can at least sit inside the library. So we move into the library, and the lady inside the library has got like a proper first aid kit. And so we get some proper gauze on her rather than the tissue that had been used and everything. And we at least get her warm. We get her a glass of water. And she's doing okay. Her husband turns up, she's doing okay. And then the ambulance turns up 50 minutes after we made the call. And it was like, I don't blame them. I know they're busy. I know that they are stretched beyond belief. But 50 minutes seemed a lot when they knew that a lady of advanced age had fallen and had a gash and was, visibly, actively bleeding from her head. And, the head injury could have been anything. And so anyway, the ambulance crew come, they do their thing, they take her away just to get her checked and everything, and I hope that she's okay. But the library had stayed open because we were like, oh, what time do you close? And they were like, well, we close at 5. Because it was like 5:05, 5:10 by this time. And we was like, oh, okay, we're really sorry to have kept you open. And they were like, no, it's fine. And eventually this lady gets taken away. And obviously I'd gone to the library to return my books. And they kept the machines were kept on. Because they knew I wanted to return my books, which I was really appreciative of. And I returned my books and then I went home. And it's weird because most of you guys listening are going to be like, oh, wow, that was amazing. But in my mind, I felt so unprepared because when I first stopped being a first responder, I used to carry latex gloves around with me everywhere in case I came across an injury. And because I still have the training and everything, I know what to do. And I used to think if I come across an injury, then I'll be prepared because I'll have gloves and all of that sort of stuff. And I never used to come across injuries. Nick would come across injuries all the time. James came across 2 separate incidents when we were in London. He walked past someone who'd overdosed, and he walked past someone else who, I can't remember what the other one was, broken their leg or something, I don't know. The rest of my family seem to come across people when they're out and about that have had accidents, and it was like, why is it never me? Why the one that's always prepared to do stuff? Why is it never me that comes across people? And so I stopped carrying gloves, And as soon as I stopped carrying gloves, I came across somebody. But I mean, I hope that the lady is okay, and that all she'd got was maybe a bit of concussion. And I'm sure she's looking pretty bruised and beaten. But I hope she's okay. But yeah, that was my little start to the weekend last week. But I tell you, kneeling down outside on the ground, because I didn't think it was right to stand up while this lady's on the ground. So I was kneeling down beside her for 40 minutes, but oh my god, my knees when I tried to stand up. it was like, oh, that was not good. I creak. That was the first time I visibly heard my body creak. Yeah, hopefully the rest of the week is less stressful for the couple in question. I didn't find it stressful. I think when you've been a medic, when you're used to helping people out in emergencies, when you see something like that, this calm comes upon you, because it's like you know what to do. You know what to do. You know exactly how you can help. You know what not to do. And it's just like this different part of your brain just sort of kicks in. And I used to love being a first responder. I absolutely loved it, but I had to stop because of the vertigo condition that I got, because I can never tell when an attack of vertigo is going to happen to me. And so I can't be looking after somebody, officially looking after somebody in a role as a responder, if I'm suddenly going to keel over, because I'm the one that's meant to be keeping them safe. They're not meant to be then concerned about me. So I had to stop being a first responder, but oh my god, do I miss it. I miss it so much. And after that experience on Friday, I came home and I was so pumped. I was on such a high, because it was like I got to do something that I loved doing. And it was just, it was just such a great experience to help somebody again in their moment of need. And it's quite a selfish thing, really, because it's like someone got hurt, but selfishly it makes you feel good to help somebody. And it gave me such a high. Nick, when I came back and told Nick all about it, he was like, I knew you'd come back like this. I knew you would come back absolutely stoked. And I was like, I was like full of energy. I was bouncing. I was like, yeah. Then this happened, and this happened, and I think that the foundation for this enjoying helping people in medical crises was laid quite young, because, as you know, I had 3 older brothers, and they were always getting up to stuff. And I remember once, my mum can't deal with the sight of blood. She just can't deal. And my dad would work all the hours that God sent. So my dad would be gone from like 7 o'clock in the morning, and he wouldn't come home till like 9:30 at night. So if anything happened that was blood related, either we had to take care of it ourselves or got one of the other siblings to take care of it. But I remember this one occasion, my middle brother, Michael, was in the back garden, and he was cutting the hedges with a strimmer, and with like a chainsaw. It was like a chainsaw, but it was a strimmer for cutting hedges, so you know what sort of machine I'm talking about. And something happened that distracted him. I think it was some other kid that was sort of winding Michael up at the time, and Michael sort of stopped paying attention and somehow managed to, on his middle finger, managed to take the top joint off. So it was literally being held on by just this bit of skin. So this bit was down here because it just sort of flopped over. Sorry, TMI. And I just remember there being a lot of screaming, a lot of, not from me and not from Michael, but from these other kids, and there being a lot of blood, and Michael coming in through the back door saying, I think I've had an accident. And I was like, oh God, because I knew he'd been out there with a chainsaw, and seeing his finger and just being absolutely fascinated by what the inside of his finger looked like. I was like, I'm sorry, this is probably making you think, right, she's a bit of a weirdo. But it was like, oh, okay, right, okay, oh, well, I'll deal with this. And I just remember sort of cleaning out the wound by holding it under the tap, because that was all I could think of to do as a young child, and then sort of wrapping his hand in a clean tea towel and saying, right, we need to get you to the hospital, and taking him off to the hospital to get that all sorted. But I could just remember the thrill and the excitement of something like that happening, and you know, he's got to be put back together again, and going with him to the hospital, and you know, watching them examine the wound and everything. And they were like, oh, you can go and stand outside the other room if this is going to be upsetting. I was like, no, it's fine. And just sort of sitting there and watching them do stuff, and I can just remember being fascinated with the way that they worked, and that this was their job. They got to put people back together again. And just thinking that was amazing. So blood and gore does not upset me at all, unless it's my own. If it's my own, I get faint, I feel like I'm going to pass out, I get all shaky, I feel sick, I cannot deal with my own injuries at all. But other people's, fine. It's fine. I think that's why I always feel sorry for the children of medics, because it's like, If it's not hanging off and it's not gushing blood, we really don't get upset about it. You know, my kids have had their fair share of, you know, little injuries and stuff. Oh, mummy, mummy, look, I got a cut on my finger, and I go, oh yeah, you'll be fine. And that's it. None of this. Oh, you've got a boo boo. Let's, you know, you need extra hugs and things. I gave them hugs, but it was just like, I don't know. I didn't get upset about things. Like they would get upset about things and think it was the worst thing in the world. But I'd be like, no, it's fine. You're okay. You're fine. It's not as bad as you think it is. You'll live. I'm just going to sharpen this black pencil actually. That's better. Right, okay, so cold grey 1. I think when this picture is done, I might go on and do the insect menagerie, the second ink. I'm really enjoying doing the ink drawing at the moment. warm grey one. Dark sepia. Right, now let me just see where this come from. Try and keep this smooth edge. This Dalmatian has been such fun to do. I knew it would be. I'm very pleased with how it's come out. Goes there. Right, now there's a very strong line here. It's about there, isn't it? So just using this dark sepia again, just to mark in where the Dalmatian blotches are going to be. Morning, Jamie. How are you? Are you feeling better? Like I said, you've got COVID. How are you doing? Or are you still half dying? Got confirmed COVID, not doing good. Oh, I'm sorry, that sucks. Because you've been poorly for a few days now, haven't you? Is it not showing any signs of being on its way? Did you say your dad had got it as well? I'm sure she said someone else in your family had got it. It just looked like we're going to get this one finished today, so if it takes a few minutes longer, then it takes a few minutes longer. It was, then it got worse again, and yeah, my father's also got it. Well, I hope you both feel better soon. There's a lot going around. I mean, Jack's finally better. I think he's going back into college today. I mean, he's had a couple of weeks of feeling rotten. And I'm amazed that he didn't actually test positive for COVID. And we did lots of tests. He's had many tests because we were utterly convinced. I mean, he spent all day watching, I think, season 2 of Game of Thrones. Got his way through the whole season because he just sat on the couch and just sort of, watched the whole thing. But he's going in today because he says he feels better. She didn't tell you about my stupid moment, did she? No, but you're going to have to tell me now. Tell me, tell me, tell me. Rosie's still barking at Cookie. I bet he's still under the stairs cowering. Honestly, you can't. It's too embarrassing. I can just ask Becca. No, I wouldn't ask Becca to divulge any of your secrets if you've just told Becca. I'm just going to blur the edges of this bit here because this part of the picture is just a little bit blurred. I just want to get the impression of this dark fur blending in from a bit more of a distance because I feel like this shoulder sits further back. Cookie is under the stairs, our cat, because he was meant to have a vet checkup this morning and he heard us capture his brother Badger. And Badger started crying and complaining, and so Cookie went and hid under the stairs, and now we can't get him out. So Rosie, who is very attuned to whether the cats are distressed or not, is sat next to the cupboard by the stairs barking because she wants him to come out so she can play with him. And when he won't come out, she barks and gets upset. Hang on one sec. Yeah. Yeah, gotta love Rosie. So if it was Badger that was under the stairs, we know we'd be able to get him out, because that cat would do anything for tuna. As long as we've got a tin of tuna in the house and we need Badger, we can get him. But Cookie is not as gullible or food motivated as Badger is. So if Cookie decides he is hiding from you and he is not coming out, then he is not coming out, and he will hide in there all day, just in case. And he certainly will not come out if I'm anywhere near. Right, now I need, oops, cold grey 2, because there's a bit of a shadow here. This is just the cold grey 2. I'm just going in to get these shadowy bits just a little bit more defined, and the edge of the dog here on the neck just a little bit more defined. I can lip read chat, and she basically said, "Cool, that Jamie really is amazing." Cool, that Jamie really is amazing. There you go. Right, I can see a little bit of, just a little bit of brown on the edges of this bit. Just using a little bit of Van Dyke brown. There's a little bit there. Right, where is my slice tool? So I just wanted to just move this down a bit. Just putting in all these little tiny hairs that are around the mouth. chin. Right, there are. Little whiskers here. Okay, where else? So just where we have this fur, just sort of some of the black edges running into the white. Just want to go over that a little bit. Where else? Here. And just putting in the odd bit of white, slicing away at some of the white into this black, just to show that there are some white, almost like guard hairs that sort of that show up in this, in the darker black sections. Posture check. Crikey. Oh, do you know, I've actually, the last 3 days, I've actually been doing yoga. I'll fit in the stretch as well, so you put in the stretch. And it's been amazing ever since I had to kneel down on that pavement on Friday for 50 minutes. And then I had to stand up. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting old. And I was like, right, I need to get back into my yoga. So I started doing yoga again on Friday. And I managed to fit in a quick 20 minutes this morning, right before stream. I did my writing. Had to write a naughty scene this morning, guys. I had to write a naughty scene. I wasn't going to. I was going to actually close the bedroom door as that bit was about to happen. But then I remembered at the beginning of the Continuity Bible for the book that I've got at the moment that the editors had put, hang on, let me find it so I can read it to you exactly. We want the continuity stories to provide a high level of passion. So there we go. So we had a high level of passion moment this morning that I had to write at 8 o'clock in the morning. I used to feel a little bit embarrassed about writing those, knowing that Becca was going to read, because Becca will sometimes read my books, and I'm like, oh my gosh, my daughter's going to read this sex scene that I've written. But now I'm like, whatever. So yeah, so I had to include a sex scene this morning. Morning, Artsman. High level passion is how you start all your mornings. Ooh. Well, good for you, Jamie. I can thoroughly recommend it. Right. Nearly done, nearly done. Right, I think we're nearly there. Is there anything else that I feel that it needs? You love the PG tips. Wow. Yes. I'm glad you clarified that, because otherwise, our minds would have gone all over. Just using this cold grey just to sort of smooth out some of the areas of shading that's on the white. I know you can't see the white on the camera, but I can. Right, let me have a look at this dog's face and just make sure there's nothing else I want to add. Right, that's the face done. Am I happy with the pink? Yeah. Any other shadow? Any other shadow? Any other shadow? No. What about the eyes? Am I happy with the eyes? Yeah. There. I think our little Dalmatian is done. So from the top of his head all the way down to his shoulders. I'm very happy with our Dalmatian. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I'm very happy with him. So I think tomorrow we will do the insect menagerie, which was the other ink picture that we were going to do. I think I'll start on that, so I'll get the line art done for that later on today. So yeah, so thanks for joining me today, guys. Appreciate it as always. I hope you all have a fabulous rest of your days. Jamie, take it easy, relax, put your feet up, get people to wait on you hand and foot. I'm sure they do anyway, but make sure they wait on you hand and foot until you get better. And yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow. So take care, everybody. Look after yourselves. Bye.